Hey everybody, welcome back to Out of the Box Healing. My name is Jessica, and I'm a foot zone and a quantum healing practitioner. And I'm personally passionate about my own journey with healing and love assisting others on their healing journeys. Um, I'm here today with a dear friend. It's been a year, I realized, Janet, since our our first um, video, and I'm so grateful to have you back again. And would you like to go ahead and just give a little introduction about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for having me back. It's so fun to sit here and talk
Yeah.
with you. We definitely are soul sisters, that is for sure. I met you, Jessica, through what I do for a living, which is I'm a quantum healer and I teach tools for healing. My main emphasis is spiritual sovereignty, but what I do is I help take people to the uncharted waters of who they really are for healing, for transformation, and for spiritual awakening. And I'm excited for this conversation today.
Thank you. I am too. I appreciate you coming and being here today. We I got thinking the other day and you came to my mind, and I wanted to have this conversation with you today about the importance of self-love. And we've had a little bit of conversation here about how really like the root of all connection begins with self-love, and how vital and important that is, and that we're coming back to that place. I had a little experience I'd like to share, and then I'd like to get your opinion on it. But years ago, um, I was I ended up going to a rehab facility for a loved one that was really struggling with addiction at the time. And this person was in an inpatient program, and we I went down to visit on a weekend, and we sat in a classroom setting, and the teacher stood up before everybody, and he looked at the individuals that were there for addiction, and he said, he looked at each of them and he said, "There's absolutely nothing wrong with you." And I was really taken back by his comment. And I was thinking, well, wait a minute, like, I know my loved one here has some challenges. Like, why would he say that? And of course I have my own challenges as well, um but I was really struck by what he had said. And I don't think he was coming from a place of, condoning their poor choices or their poor habits, but he
Mhm.
was trying to get to the root of, um, sometimes this life can get so disorienting and get so loud that we forget down to the core and the root of really who we are. And that is like, I think that's isn't that the hero's journey, is to get back there, like, to that center. um and that perhaps we're missing the deeper part of healing. um I've often researched, like, what is self-love, and you can get online and there are so many great suggestions and ideas, and I think great tools to getting there. But I really think sometimes we could go even deeper to how we can get there. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think everything starts with self-love. That's been my experience too, is I had a series of near-death out-of-body experiences back in 2009. And it left me with a lot of questions about myself and about the spirit realm and who I am in that realm. Like, who is in this body? Because I had some amazing epiphanies after I left the body, and I was looking at the body going, wait a minute, I thought that was me. And so, if that inanimate bag of cells and dirt and water laying on the ground isn't me, then what? Who is it that's looking through the eye holes of my body?
Um,
Who is that? And that question really started me on a trajectory of coming to know God in a greater way. In fact, Joseph Smith even says, he's a prophet of the restoration, but he says, those who do not comprehend the nature of God will never or the nature of God, yeah, will never understand themselves. And I think it goes both ways. So as I've spent a large majority of the last 20 years trying to come to know God, what happened for me was that I felt God turning me back in to myself. Just come home. Just come home to yourself, come home to yourself. It's not about clinging to an outside entity or a deity or anything like that. It's about returning home to self. The first great commandment is to love God. The second commandment is to love yourself.
Mhm.
They say in the Bible to love your neighbor as yourself, but you can't love your neighbor unless you love yourself. And that's a pretty big deal. I also believe you cannot feel the love of God if there's a lack of self-love. So to the degree that you have healthy self-love within and you have returned home to self is to the degree that you're going to feel God's love. And it's also to the same degree that that love of God will be able to spill out of you onto others. But it comes through the vessel of self-love. You can't receive and you can't give until this vessel is authentic.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. I think that's so important. I've often thought about the scripture in Matthew 18 where, Jesus is saying, inviting people to return as a little child. Um, and I think sometimes we can get that kind of confused in religion. Um,
Mhm.
and I'm not claiming to understand all things here, but it's my personal opinion that he's really saying, like, come back to your true essence. And children carry that naturally. And then it's, being in the world and getting, somebody telling you like a false belief about yourself or, a false concept that continues to just weigh us down. Um,
Mhm.
I've often carried around a picture of myself as a little girl.
Oh, that's so
And
cute.
yeah, I love it. And my hair is a mess. Like I'm
So cute.
just, but I'm free and I'm wild.
You're
Like,
free and you're
and
wild and you're authentic and you're just in
uh,
your essence.
yes, and I think it's such a great reminder, if we can find a picture of when we were little, when we were in that true essence to remind us that's really who I am. And I really feel like that's what this teacher and this friend was trying to teach these people that were struggling with addiction. And we all can struggle with addiction of some type. The goal is really to come back to ourselves. And I hope,
Self-awareness, I like even as a quantum healer, this is one of the concepts I learned early on, and I just learned it by observing people. But self-awareness is at the core of all healing is your own essence. Coming back to the authenticity of the pureness and the essence of self is where you find God. That's where God meets you, because that's where God dwells, because the kingdom of heaven is within, right? Jesus said that. So when you come home to the self, to the kingdom of heaven within you, that's the essence of healing. That's the essence of your connection and communication with God. That's the essence of your connection to your true self. And then from there, it just spills out, and then you can really connect with other people and in a way that they will feel more love from you than they've felt from anywhere else before, because you're the invitation now for them to go inside of themselves
Mhm,
and tap in.
mhm.
Mhm.
That's really beautiful. So, what are some things that help you personally to kind of get to that place?
Of self-love.
Yeah, or just even tapping into that,
Yeah.
the source, of all of
Well, okay. So how I stumbled on this again was through quantum healing, because I noticed that the more you go within and do your inner work, for example, if I am still carrying around the baggage or the energy from a past drama or trauma that made me feel like I'm not enough, or maybe it made me feel like I'm not worthy, I'm not safe, I'm not special, I'm not lovable, no one cares about me, whatever the baggage is, it doesn't even matter. Usually it's beliefs or emotions. But when you start going within, identifying where you're storing that stuff, in your body, your physical body. You'll notice that that's where most of the distortion in your body is. That's where the cells don't get along. That's where the energy is kind of tweaked or out of alignment, and the body is not healthy in that place. And so you'll notice symptoms or problems or pains. It'll even show up in your relationships and your bank account through a lack of certain things. So returning to health is finding where you're storing that baggage on your hard drive and doing the inner work so that you can keep continuing to return to wholeness and to return to self again. When I work with people, and we get done clearing deep sadness or bitterness or some pain from the past they didn't even know they were carrying, and we let that go, and I'll say to them, who do you get to be now? And most people will be like, I get to be me. I get to be this feeling that's inside of me right now that feels amazing. Now that I've let go of all that baggage, I finally get to be. I just get to be. And it's in the being that all of the doing is born. It's born out of that, authenticity of you. So I guess tools for connecting to self would be number one, you got to do your inner work. And sometimes that's not easy to do because we don't often know what we're carrying around until we get help and someone helps us dig in there and wrench around a little bit. But I guarantee you, when you are on your soul's path and you're pursuing the desires of your heart, you're going to get triggered. You're going to bump up against resistance, and that's where you're storing it. So I always say to people, if you want to know where your triggers are, where your blocks are, where you're storing this stuff, pursue something that is like a dream or a passion, something you've always wanted to have or be or do, and those triggers will come to the surface naturally. And then you deal with them. You process it, clear it, release it, return back home to self, and then you continue to move forward. So some people need to hire a coach or a foot zoner or someone to help them with that process. And you can get some pretty darn good help these days from people who are mentors and healers and coaches. So that's my first recommendation. I think my second recommendation for that is I did a class almost a year ago with a man named Stephen Baker. He's an older gentleman, and our class, it's up on my YouTube channel, which is Great Life, Greater Impact. And the name of the class is called Sovereign Self-Love, the Key to a Beautiful Life. And in there, he taught some really amazing principles for just basic tools, basic things that we can do on a daily basis to help us. And one of the things that he said was muscle test to find out what level your subconscious self-love is at. So when he muscle tested me, I thought, I'm going to be in the 90s,
Mhm.
maybe 100, because I've done a lot of inner work over the last 25 years, and I just thought, I'm going to be in the 90s. Mine was like 20 something.
Wow.
But that's subconscious self-love. And I
Mhm.
didn't know that I hadn't been working on my subconscious self-love. I had been working consciously on my levels of self-love. But so testing the subconscious levels. And then the next step after you muscle test to see where you're at, what number do you get? Um, you can pray and ask God to raise that level of subconscious self-love while you're sleeping. And you just do it and give yourself about a month for it to unfold. And I guarantee you that while you're sleeping, your subconscious levels of self-love will increase, and they'll increase and they'll increase every day over that course of a month. You'll come to 100% subconscious self-love, and you'll watch your life change right before your eyes. Things will change. You will change, and the change will be subtle. It's not going to be like this big bomb that goes off in your life and now everything's different. It'll be very subtle, but you'll notice you start attracting to you very different experiences and opportunities for self-love. So that's one tool. You're welcome to go watch the replay of that. I can send the link to you and people can click on that. But another way I think that we can increase self-love. So the first one is do your inner work. The second one is muscle test, see where you're at subconsciously and pray and ask God to increase that as you're sleeping so that it just happens on autopilot. Ask for it to grow, and then check in and test it periodically. The other thing that I recommend too is those who have an understanding of how the darkness works, um, interchangeably with the light. There are dark beings through in the unseen realm. We call them hitchhikers or Klingons that don't want you to dwell in the light. They want to pull you over into the dark so that they can suck your energy and your life force from you. And so the way that they get you into the darkness is by feeding you mind chatter that says, you're not special. You're not worthy. You're not safe. You're not lovable. You're not enough. You can't do it. Who do you think you are? All that mind chatter, typically that comes from the enemy. That comes from the dark side. And so being aware that there are hitchhikers and that there are voices that are going to influence your inner voice, and being willing to cast that out, being bold enough, being present with it to cast the liars out of your midst because they are lying to you. It is a big lie. You are all of the love that you think you need. You are everything that you think you're lacking. You already are it. And that you get access to that through high levels of self-love. Another tool, I have two more. Another tool I think that works really, really well is to keep track of all that you're grateful for. When a little tender mercy or a miracle shows up in your life, even if it's not meant for you and you just witnessed it, show gratitude, express gratitude, have gratitude, write it down, speak it out, express it out. Gratitude always comes from a place of self-love and a place of acknowledging God's presence within you. So that's one of the fastest ways to come back in home to center, connecting with the God self within you and God that influences you, but also your true self. So gratitude is big. It's if you can have a gratitude journal, if you can walk about your day, keeping track, writing down all the things that you are specifically grateful for, huge, huge, huge. That will grow self-love. And then the last thing that I was thinking about in regards to self-love is letting go of criticism and comparison. Because Jessica, there is no other Jessica, and there will never be another Jessica, and there never has been one before now. Right? So there is nothing for you to compare yourself. There is nothing.
Yeah.
You couldn't possibly compare yourself to anything or anyone that could measure up to the you that is you. And so letting go of criticism, letting go of comparison, because there is nothing that can compare to the divine being that occupies your physical body.
Mhm.
There is only one you. So those are my 6 recommendations of things that you can do to grow self-love.
I love it. Those are really powerful. Um, do you feel like essentially part of the journey here really is like I've often heard people say that we're here in a space of just forgetting, right? So that we can remember again. Like, um, do you feel like that's a big part of like I guess even like what why do you think there's so much emphasis on that?
On remembering self.
Yeah, like what's the point?
Wow. I think it is the point to return to self. Self-awareness is the point. Could there possibly be a work more important that you could be focused on in this world than to remember the divine being that you've always been and that you always will be? And my opinion is, what's the point is nothing can threaten that part of you. that part of you is infinite and eternal and unchanging and never ending. It never goes away. It cannot die. It can't lose anything. It can't run out of time. And there's nothing that could ever be taken from it, because that part of you infinitely is everything that you think you're looking for. You already are. So
Mhm.
that is the point. If you want everything that if you want to have and be and do everything you've ever wanted to have, be and do, come to know self, because your self will govern that and bring those things more abundantly into your life. Every one of our challenges that we face in life, whether it's in your body or your bank account or your relationships, is rooted in a lack of self. Where inside of you are you disconnected from your higher self? And that's, I guarantee you, that's where the roots are to all your problems.
Mhm.
So you want to solve all your problems? Go find the root of where you're not enough
Mhm.
and resolve that and come back home to self. Find all the roots to all of the I'm not enoughs and resolve those. You'll have healing, you'll have abundance, you'll have good relationships, you'll find God, you'll find love. That's why it matters. Like, I think that's what we're all seeking.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I think even sometimes culturally and religiously, we can kind of get fed these beliefs of, you know, we have to do to become enough, right? Like, and I think isn't that really where we're missing the point? Like, and I can see where I've gotten stuck in that myself, like, and it's really actually quite tragic as you start to learn some of these things to see how some of the programming is actually what's hurting us instead of
Oh,
helping us on this journey.
tremendously.
Yeah.
People are being wounded by, and it's not just religion, but religion is kind of a big culprit. I saw it happen over and over in my religious upbringing. I would sit in, the Relief Society and the women's meeting and watch these women. When sign up lists would go around, they'd hand up these sign up sheets. Hey, could you help with this project, or serve a meal to this person, or make bread or cookies or something, or clean the building, or could you sign up for all these things to have to do. And I could see women in their minds. I could perceive their mentality going, maybe if I do enough, someday I'll be enough.
Yeah.
And that, there's nothing more sad than that. It's nothing more disconnected from yourself than that. But it's what the culture and the society breeds, is that it's in your doing that you prove that you're worthy of love and inclusion, and to feel safe and to feel like a part of the community, and like you're righteous, right? I'm going to do all these things to prove that I'm righteous. And then I'm going to earn God's love, and I'm going to earn all the approval of all the people in my culture.
Mhm.
That's messed up.
Yeah. Well, it creates so much self-judgment because and then in that self-judgment, we're then judging out here, and then we're just so disconnected because we're all trying to, like, quantify our enoughness. So, I agree with you. I think that's where some of these conversations can be really healing, to talk about.
As a quantum healer, as I've had opportunities to do a lot of one-on-one mentoring with people, hundreds of people, and something that I get to witness over and over and over all the time is that when a person finally lets go of all the pressure and all of the self-judgment and all of the comparison and all of the I'm not enoughs, and they get to the root of that stuff, they discover that they are their own greatest gift.
Mhm.
You are your own greatest gift. You actually are what you're seeking for. It's not love from outside of you. It's not romantic love that you're seeking for. It's what you're really looking for is wholeness. You're looking to reconnect with you. I did a profound healing session with a gentleman just this past summer, and I usually ask this at the end of the session: who do you get to be now?
Mhm.
And most people will say, "Oh, I get to be me," because they're centered, they're connected, they're feeling all these good feelings. And by the way, every good feeling that you've ever had in your lifetime up till now is you. That's you feeling the effects of being connected to yourself. So every time you've ever been happy or joyful, ecstatic, or filled with bliss, that's you. That's what you feel like. And so when you return home to you, it feels good. So I said to him, "Who do you get to be now?" And I was expecting him to say, "I get to be me." And he said, "I get to be everyone,"
Mhm.
meaning I'm so rooted, so anchored in myself and in my soul. Now I get to be one with everyone. That's unity. And isn't that what we're all seeking to achieve? Is some people call that Zion, some people call that unity, community, whatever you want to call it. But that's what a sovereign being goes from being codependent, where they have to cling to somebody or something to make them feel whole. A sovereign being knows how to stand in their own autonomy, tap into their own self love and their inner bliss, and go, "Oh my gosh, it is what it is, and I'm okay." And then they go out into the world and connect
Mm,
with others, but not for the sake of neediness or clinginess, for the sake of co-collaboration and unity and interdependency, not codependency.
mhm,
You don't need them to fill you, but you are full already and whole and healthy and sovereign already. And now you're ready to connect in a healthy way.
mm.
And that's beautiful. That kind of connection, it's next level.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, even just hearing you talk about it, it sounds nice, but then it's like, okay, how do you create that, you know? Like, because the programming there's like in my own life, I've kind of at times had more of an anxious attachment at times, and I've had a avoidant attachment at times, and I'm like, okay, how do you find middle, you know? Like a healthy middle. So,
I think how you find it is
mhm,
growing in your subconscious self love.
yeah.
And you can muscle test to find out where you're at and ask God to help you increase those levels while you're sleeping. But then also while you're awake, treating yourself with kindness. Here's one thing that you can do. I had a friend who she used to be a public speaker. She said one time she was up on stage and she was talking about something and she lost her train of thought and then just blurted out something that was totally ridiculous and people were laughing and she made a fool out of herself up on stage and she was like, I wanted to say inside of myself, I wanted to say, "Ah, you idiot. Why did you say that?" But instead, she said, I caught myself and I said inside of myself, I said, "Oh, you cute thing. I see what you were trying to do. You allowed the ego to step in the way and have a voice and I still love you and it's okay." She said that to herself. Like,
Powerful.
I don't remember the last time after I heard that from her, I was like, I don't remember the last time I said, "Oh, you sweet thing," or "You cute thing" to myself. And she said, it's a practice that she started years ago. And she said, I will never condemn myself again or speak unkind to myself or be frustrated or angry at myself anymore because I treat myself now as if I am my own inner young child that just needs love.
Yeah, that's so powerful. I know. I think we're all just like so hard on ourselves, and we don't need to be because
Yeah.
we're here to learn. Like that's part of the process.
I think forgiveness too is a good tool.
Um,
Self forgiveness, just letting go of the suffering and forgiving yourself for carrying that.
mhm. Yeah, I think too when we're able to forgive ourselves, it's easier to forgive others, and then, like you're saying, that oneness.
Yeah,
You're saying it really trickles down to here first
it
before we
does.
can create that oneness. So it's really huge.
Well, yourself is the vessel
Mm,
that will receive God's love and then give love out. And so that's the gauge. If there's a low level of self-love, you're not going to receive much and there's not much that's going to spill out. It's going to be blocked there. So self-love has to be open. It's like the garden hose. It can't be kinked or bent or full of mud. It has to be an open channel so that stuff can flow in and then right back out through the self-love.
Mhm. Yeah, I can totally see that. Do you feel like your near-death experience kind of opened you to
Oh,
this, or was that the catalyst?
oh, it most certainly was the catalyst for me.
Wow.
Yeah. Um, I I have little pictures of me as a little child too, and I look very timid and shy and scared and terrified. All the pictures of me. I don't have very many pictures of myself as a little kid, but um I look terrified. When I was, I think, 1, I tumbled down a flight of stairs in a walker and I was banged up really bad. Concussion, black eyes, bloody nose, all of it. And my poor mother, she must have been just, she must have felt so bad. But I think that experience of going through that made me more shy. It made me more scared. It made me clamp down. It made me do all the human things that we do as humans because we're scared. I don't want that to happen to me ever again. So I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to stop walking. I'm not going to venture out. I'm just going to sit in the corner and be quiet. And that's what I did. I shut down. My mother said I didn't really talk much at all till I was about 4 or 5, um, because of the trauma. So
Yeah.
when you have had trauma in your life, it will disconnect you. That's its purpose.
Mm.
It will disconnect you from who you really are, and it'll make you afraid to go in there.
Mhm.
But if you can overcome that and resolve that, and reconnect with your higher self again, that's the catalyst for healing all the pains of the past from your dramas and your traumas.
Mhm.
And that's what heals the body. It's what allows you to connect.
Yeah. That's such a good point. I think there are people that do have those memories like I do, of being little, and there's others that they were thrown right into trauma. And
Yeah.
I do have some memories of trauma as a little, being really little, but I also have memories that were like really positive,
Yeah.
which is a gift. But I think knowing that we can pray and also ask to be remember, so that we can come back to that person, that true essence. I have a memory of being like 4, and my family had like moved across the country, and um you know, we were thrown into a different culture. Most of the people were of different religion. The school I went to was predominantly African American. It was just like this huge
Yeah.
culture shock at such a young age. And I remember one day going across the street and to play with one of the neighbors, and the dad, I remember like just having this really like loving feeling about myself. Like I felt so happy. I felt joyful. I was like 4 years old. And this dad, of this friend, he looked at me and he said, "You're not really that great." And I remember it was just this little girl, and it stuck with me so, like, it's just been embedded in my mind. And I remember thinking, why can't he see like the love
Hmm.
that I am and the good that I am? And I was just this little cute little girl, but it really had a profound impact on me as I've been healing and as I've been seeing how, we can get these layer upon layers of false programming just dumped on us. And
How long did you carry that around before you finally decided to let go of that lie?
right, exactly. I mean, I got conscious of it a few years ago. Yeah,
Hmm.
it's been decades of carrying
Yeah.
it.
And it is so profoundly healing when people can wake up and recognize, oh my gosh, I bought into a lie. It's not even true. And I don't have to carry this anymore. Boom, letting it go. Then amazingly, you feel lighter, you feel better, you feel more empowered, you feel more you feel more unapologetic about being you. It is really life-changing.
Yeah, yeah, it really is. Well, I just really love this conversation. Is there any other like final thoughts or things that you'd like to share with those that are on this path of healing?
I guess to sum up what we've already covered is love yourself and just be. It's not about the doing, it's not about proving, it's not about apologizing. Just be. And if gosh, if you can find ways and people to help you learn how to tap into what it feels like to be you. In fact, as I let you guys go, if you could just close your eyes and think about yourself sitting in a big comfortable chair, and I want you to really just become presently aware of who's in here, who's animating this physical crust, because the body really is just, it's a device, but it's not you. So, who's in here looking through my eye holes? Who's in here witnessing the world around me? Who is doing the looking and the listening and the breathing and the talking and the animating? And just sit with that in the stillness of your soul for a little while until you start to connect with your own inner essence and let that part of you guide. It'll change your life.
Mhm. Love it. Thank you so much, Janet. I appreciate your time. And where can people find you?
The best place to find me is YouTube. Well, I'm on Facebook and YouTube, but YouTube, I have a channel called Great Life, Greater Impact. You can watch some of the different videos there. We talked about spiritual sovereignty all year last year. You can also go to my website, which is greatlifegreaterimpact.com, and you can find out more about what we do over there too.
Okay. I'll be sure to put those in the show notes. So thank you so much and sending so much love and light to those listening.